additional gift, or bumping up your monthly sustainer total toward a new amount that works for you. It really isn't so much about the amount; it's about everyone getting involved and chipping into the service. We appreciate everyone who has given at any level. You truly do keep this model going. You keep these shows here. So it's a service for you. It's made possible by you. We believe in that model, and we believe that you now will step up and keep WHYY strong and fully funded. WHYY.org. Click the donate button, or you can visit I already said that. I guess you could visit WHYY.org, or you could visit your phone and dial 1-888-345-9499. Once again, thank you so much to everyone who has given. Join them now. Thanks.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Motley Fool, providing a variety of solutions for individuals' investment portfolios and personal finances. Motley Fool is a resource for investors when buying stocks. Find out more at fool.com. And from Boston Beer Company, brewing Samuel Adams Boston Lager since 1984. Sam Adams Boston Lager uses hops from Germany's Bavaria region. Boston Beer Company, Boston, Mass., promoting responsible drinking.
Before we get back to the roundup, it is almost time for the next 1A Movie Club. This month's movie is about a boy being raised in Nazi Germany with two big problems. One, his imaginary friend is a light-hearted Adolf Hitler. And two, there's a real-life Jewish girl hiding in his attic.
Your mother took me in. She's kind. She treats me like a person.
You two seem to be getting on well.
She doesn't seem like a bad person. I'm the enemy. You're not a Nazi. You're a 10-year-old kid who likes dressing up in a funny uniform and wants to be part of a club.
This month's movie is Jojo Rabbit, starring Scarlett Johansson, Sam Rockwell, and the film's director, Taika Waititi, as Adolf Hitler. It opens today. If you go see it, send us reviews. How many stars out of 5 and why? Leave us a voicemail, 855-236-1A1A, or at 1A Voxpop. We will review Jojo Rabbit, spoilers and all, and share some of your reactions soon on 1A. Back now to the roundup with NBC's Courtney Cubie, Peter Bergen of CNN and New America, and Indira Lakshmanan of the Pulitzer Center on Crisis Reporting. Still time to get in a few more of your questions and thoughts. 1A@WAMU.org. We seem to be doing pretty well at the time, so let me back up to Turkey. Jim emailed, can you speak to the catering race by Senator Romney? The Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan might have given President Trump an ultimatum and that Trump caved. Courtney?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the many theories that only the people on the phone call really know that. And, conversations that you have, unless they put out a transcript, we're never really going to know it.
One listener asked whether a transcript was going to be published.
I mean, given this administration, I doubt it, and no matter how hard we push for it. But without seeing a transcript, we're never really going to know exactly how hard. The military officials who I've spoken with insist that President Trump pushed very hard. But then when I asked about any specific ultimatums, no one can tell me any that he actually gave. The thing to keep in mind is that, yes, President Erdogan did give the U.S. a heads up this was happening, but it also is not a surprise. I know people haven't necessarily been paying attention to this as much as we might, but Turkey has been building up its military along the border for months now. President Erdogan has increased his rhetoric, very much so even in the last couple of weeks. And from a military perspective, you could see along the border that they were doing things that indicated that an invasion was likely and coming, getting their logistics ready, things like getting their bridging equipment together, moving personnel and artillery and whatnot down there. It was clear that President Erdogan was planning to move in. The question is, could President Trump on that phone call have done something that would have forced him that didn't include potentially putting the U.S. military in the crossfire?
Marcia tweeted, was there any talks of the U.S. taking in Kurdish refugees, especially those who had worked with the U.S. military as part of the negotiation? Peter, I wonder if there were talks, but in terms of refugees, I think one of the things that's been a narrative with Turkey in the past that's given it some leverage with the EU is that there are refugee paths that run through Turkey because there's a border with Bulgaria and Greece in the northwest of Turkey.
Yeah, I think there are 3.6 million Syrian refugees in Turkey. And by the way, guess how many the United States have taken? This is the largest refugee outflow, one of the largest since World War II. I think last year we took 60. Yeah,
Not 60,000.
660.
So I imagine.
So it was this was not part of the discussion. We're taking effectively zero.
We got some questions, Indira, about the nature of the military relationship or just the other connections between the U.S. and Turkey, including from Peter, who asked if the U.S. still stationed nuclear warheads in Turkey. How much are we entangled with Turkey in that way?
I mean, very much so. They're a key NATO ally, and we're part of NATO. And we've heard President Trump talking for years now, even before he was president, about how he has problems with NATO. He thinks that they owe us money, that they all need to be stepping up to the plate. But our relationship with Turkey has not faltered from a military point of view. I mean, look, if we don't get a readout of this call, no one's going to give us a transcript. If we don't even get a readout of this call, I think it's pretty fair to say all the reporting has shown that President Erdogan said in the call, I am going to do this. So in that way, as Peter and Courtney have said, he was giving Donald Trump a heads up. Donald Trump doesn't want American forces killed, so he made a decision, let's move out of there. The difference was that he then follows it up after there's so much anger and confusion about how could you abandon our allies. He follows it up with this letter, which the White House agreed to, released, stood by, in which Donald Trump basically says to Erdogan, don't be a fool, I will call you later, and essentially says, you know, how can you do this? The letter was astonishing, and for any listeners who haven't read it,
He included a correspondence from General Mazloum Abdi, who's the head of the Syrian Defense Forces, our allies in the fight against ISIS, and saying they're ready to make concessions. Essentially, they're ready to make concessions if you'll make a deal.
but it's a bit after the fact. If he wanted to say that, he should have said that before, rather than green-lighting this whole situation. And let's not forget the extent to which Donald Trump has really downplayed, has tried to act as if the American people shouldn't care about what's going on. He's referred to the Middle East as they have a lot of sand over there. They can fight in the sand. He referred to it last night. It was at a campaign rally in Texas as saying, you know, they're going to have to fight it out as if they're kids on a schoolyard. You know, completely forgetting that the United States got involved in this. The United States was using the Syrian forces to defend against ISIS. Now, as I said, all those ISIS prisoners have been let free out of those jails. So there are so many consequences. I can understand the president wanting to uphold his promise to keep U.S. troops out or take them out of the Middle East, but he doesn't seem to have thought through the consequences.
Before we move on and talk about China and Hong Kong, we should say a quick word about the UK and Boris Johnson, who may have pulled a Brexit rabbit out of the hat. This week there was a last-minute compromise deal with the Prime Minister's exhausted European counterparts. That raises the prospect that Britain could actually leave the EU by the end of this month. But now comes the hard part. Prime Minister Johnson has to get approval for his draft deal in Parliament, and that begins with an extraordinary, rare Saturday meeting of the House of Commons. Indira, this is the point at which other Prime Minister, Theresa May, of course, got tripped up before. So just because there is a deal that the EU says go vote on doesn't mean that the deal is done.
Yeah, two quick thoughts on this. First of all, the deal is not that different from the deal that Theresa May had, and in fact, it is going to bother his Northern Irish allies from the DUP. This is the Unionist Party. It's going to bother them even more because it's actually keeping Northern Ireland in the customs union. So now it's sort of going beyond the backstop, which people may have heard about. I mean, I think ironically, if this deal gets passed, he may actually be the British Prime Minister who serves to unify Ireland in a way, by, you know, making sure that Northern and the Republic of Ireland are all within the same customs union. So it's going to be interesting to see whether he gets this deal through or not, but he can call it what he wants. He can call it a breakthrough, but anybody who reads it can see it's not that much different from what there was before.
Speaking of deals, let's shift gears to China and talk about the prospect of a trade deal between China and the U.S. That remains uncertain after the two countries reached a tentative agreement last week. CNBC's Carl Quintanilla spoke with top White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow yesterday. Mr. Kudlow was optimistic about finishing the deal.
People shouldn't be so pessimistic about the China talks, and that some good things could happen. And I think this whole phase one is a good thing that's happening. And for the skeptics out there, I appreciate that and I respect that, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of momentum and there's agreement on both sides.
That's White House Economic Advisor Larry Kudlow speaking yesterday on CNBC. Peter, we've heard Larry Kudlow speak about optimism before. Don't be so pessimistic. Be willing to be optimistic in the American economic future. But do we know anything about this tentative deal, where the U.S. and China stand? Is Mr. Kudlow's optimism well placed?
My impression about the deal where it stands right now is it kind of deferred the bigger issues. I think China has agreed to buy something like, I think, $40 to $50 billion more of Chinese agricultural products, but it doesn't leave aside. I mean, we still, and Trump is not going to impose, I think they were going to go from 25 to 30% tariffs on, a couple of $100 billion plus of Chinese products, and he's not going to do that. But this is it's actually kind of a somewhat incremental step. This is not like some grand bargain. And at the end of the day, if I'm Xi and the Communist Party in China, I'm aware there's an American election which Trump could lose. I mean, he could win as well. And I'm not going to necessarily do a deal that is hugely to my disadvantage with somebody that may lose the election. So I think they're just going to wait and see what happens in the election, just like the Iranians, so just like other American, basically rivals.
Meanwhile, while this is going on between the U.S. and Beijing, the leader of Hong Kong, Carrie Lam, was forced to suspend her annual speech before Parliament. That's because pro-democracy lawmakers interrupted. They were rallying and climbing on the tables. They were chanting 5 demands, not one less, in reference to their list of demands for the Hong Kong government. Indira, this all kind of sparked with this extradition bill that would allow, people accused of major crimes to be extradited back to Beijing. These 5 demands have been on the table for quite some time. You spent a good amount of time in Hong Kong. What does this look like to you?
Yeah, okay. I spent 7 years based in Hong Kong as a reporter for the Boston Globe, and including the Hong Kong handover in 1997, when China took back control of Hong Kong, which had been a British colony. And this is exactly what people were worried about in 1997, when people said, Beijing is promising one country, 2 systems, but are they really going to let this, incredible international entrepot, incredible economic success story, are they going to allow these people to self-govern? And we've proven now, 22 years later, they're not allowing them to self-govern. There are no direct elections in Hong Kong. It's not just the extradition bill, which, by the way, would have allowed Hong Kongers, many of whom don't ever go to China, to be extradited to mainland China. Listeners may have heard about the booksellers who had been selling controversial, i.e. democratic books, and how they were just disappeared across the border to China. There's a lot of upset about this in China. I can't overstate this. I mean, there were periods when, 1 in 4 people in Hong Kong were literally marching in the streets over this. And it's not just, everyone remembers Joe Wilson yelling at President Obama during the State of the Union, "You lie." Imagine that magnified with people, as you say, climbing on the tables. She was not able to finish her equivalent of the State of the Union. I personally think that these protests could go on for years, and I think they could have a very, very bad outcome if Beijing finally gets sick of it and decides that they're going to roll in with some sort of Tiananmen-style crackdown. I dearly pray that does not happen.
I'm Joshua Johnson. You're listening to 1A.
I'm Tony Sadowski, joined by Nina Feldman, listening along to 1A with you this morning and getting this great roundup of headlines from everything going on in the world this week. Honestly, for the past several years, the news has felt like someone threw a rock at a heat pipe. And you really can't figure out exactly what you should be paying attention to at any single time, and maybe perhaps running away feels like the instinctual thing you should be doing. We don't believe in that here. We believe in facing what's happening in the world, bringing you thoughtful coverage of the headlines, everything going on, and making sure it's digestible, it's presented in a way that's clear, it makes sense, and you know that it's being presented by people who think carefully about it and actually value facts, because facts do matter. Still in 2019, WHYY is a place you turn because you believe in this thing that we do here, this kind of fact-based news, this thoughtful coverage and analysis of what's happening in the world, and so much, we were talking before, Nina, of what happens internationally feels like national and even local news these days. That is made possible through listener support. And that is our model here. So we're asking you to join those who have given to WHYY. We have a goal for this hour of 20 gifts. We are halfway there. So that's great. We're on pace. We need you now, as this program wraps up here in the final minutes, to give us your support. Become a member now. WHYY.org. Click that donate button, or you can dial 1-888-345-9499.
And when you support WHYY today, you're doing more than just supporting the great programming that you rely on, that you listen to every day, every morning when you wake up, every evening when you're cooking dinner, in the car, when you're driving. It's more than just the programming, it's the people behind the programming. So I'm a reporter. When I go out to interview somebody or cover an event, I've got gear. I've got a fancy recorder, I've got a good set of headphones, I've got a nice microphone to pick up sound. Altogether, that stuff costs probably in the ballpark of around $800. That's a lot. There are a lot of reporters here. Those are costs we need covered. We need transportation to get places. In studio, when you're relying on somebody like Terry Gross or Marty Moskowitz doing interviews, those are even nicer microphones. Those are even more expensive. Gear adds up, So I just put all of that out there to say there is a lot going on behind the scenes to make the people who you rely on to make the news you rely on actually do their jobs well. And we count on your support to put all those pieces together. So that's why we are here today, asking for you to donate at WHYY.org. Click the donate button or call 1-888-345-9499.
Nina, as you pointed out, there are a lot of reporters here, and that is another point of pride for WHYY as other newsrooms are shrinking and exploring into new fundraising territory and honestly putting up paywalls. WHYY has been able to keep our news coverage free and accessible to everyone in this region thanks to listener support. So you're doing a good deed, not only for yourself, but everybody in this area, making this news service available to them, chipping in and allowing us to be an NPR member station, bringing you these great national programs that provide this great national, international coverage, and also to keep growing this newsroom and keeping it getting stronger all the time so we can keep serving you on a local level too, with beats such as Health and Science, which Nina obviously covers, and so many others of importance here in this region. WHYY.org. Click that donate button, or you can call 1-888-345-9499. We have 14 in toward our goal, so 20 we're looking for, 6 to go. We will hit that. I believe it, but it happens with one person right now listening. That's you, taking action and visiting WHYY.org or giving us that call of support, 1-888-345-9499.
And your pledge goes farther today than it would on another day because of a challenge that we're trying to meet. So a group of donors, really generous donors, are offering WHYY a challenge, and here's how it goes. If 300 listeners donate by 6:30 this evening, then we will lock in a combined $15,000 donation. So your gift today goes even farther. It'll get us closer to that $15,000. And for those of you who've already donated, thank you. We really appreciate it. And for those of you who are still thinking about it, WHYY.org. Thanks so much.
Hey, you could call 1-888-345-9499. That's another way. Thank you.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from the financial services firm of Raymond James, offering personalized wealth management advice and banking and capital markets expertise, along with a legacy of putting clients' financial well-being first. Learn more at raymondjames.com. And from Noom, offering a personalized weight loss program that uses psychology and small goals to change habits with the goal of losing weight and keeping it off for good. Learn more at Noom, Noom.com.
Thank you, Noom. It's almost noon. You're listening to WHYY. Tony Sadowski, joined by Nina Feldman, asking for your support during our fall membership campaign. Help us toward our overall goal and a challenge we're in today to get 300 gifts at any level you're comfortable giving by tonight at 6:30 p.m. We will hit that goal. We're making great strides, but there's a caveat there. That only happens if you take action now and join those who have given so far today. We appreciate your ongoing generosity. You invest in this service and keep it here so we can do the work we do to bring you the great news and information you rely on here every day. Now we're asking you to support it. Become a member today. WHYY.org. Click that donate button, or you can call 1-888-345-9499.
We have a comment here from Marie in Philadelphia who says she listens in the car every morning with teenagers and it always brings great conversation. Thank you. Well, thank you, Marie. It is so great to hear that we're facilitating dialogue intergenerationally. That's the goal here. I mean, I think we bring you the news and the content and the entertainment, and that's our job. And what you do with it is up to you. So we know you value it. And you can donate at WHYY.org or call 1-888-345-9499. And it's simple. It takes just a few minutes. You've probably been meaning to, and now's the time to do it. It'll go a long way. We have just 3 more
Fantastic.
to go before we get to our goal of 20 pledges this hour. So thanks so much if you've already given, and if you haven't, now's the time.
Keep that momentum going strong. WHYY.org. Click that donate button. Takes just a few minutes of your time. You put in your info, how you'd like to pay, how much you're comfortable giving, and you've done your part. Or you could call one of our volunteers. They are standing by at 1-888-345-9499. Thanks again to everyone who has given during this hour of the day. We appreciate your generosity. Join them now. Thanks again. This is WHYY-FM Philadelphia, WNJN-FM 89.7 Atlantic City, WNJZ 90.3 Cape May Courthouse, WNJB-FM 89.3 Bridgeton, WNJM 89.9 Manahawkin, and WNJS-FM 88.1 Berlin.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Energy Secretary Rick Perry says his decision to leave his post at the end of the year has nothing to do with the impeachment inquiry against President Trump. Perry is being subpoenaed by the Democratic-led House committees investigating allegations that the president held up millions of dollars in military aid as leverage to get Ukraine to dig up dirt on his possible 2020 political rival, Joe Biden. Perry tells Fox News that he backs a top White House advisor's assessment that there was no quid pro quo.
I think he was straight up with what he said. I think there are people trying to connect dots when the facts would, by basically saying that there was no quid pro quo in the sense of what those folks out there would like for it to be. That we're going to give you this money.